This is an Artist Journey podcast, the podcast for people thriving and creating as artists. I'm your host, Malcolm Dewey, and let's begin. Hello, welcome back to an Artist Journey podcast. Good to be chatting to you again. It's been a while, but I thought this would be a good time to chat to you again in a new podcast episode. What with all the craziness, quarantines and lockdowns and all of that stuff, I guess we all have a bit of extra time, and I've definitely freed up a bit of time as well. I'm sure we're not going to look back on this period in our history and laugh about it, that's for sure. But we can use it to our advantage where possible. And by that I simply mean getting in touch with a few of the things we've been putting off. One of them, obviously, is being more creative, finding more ways to spend quality time at home. That is probably a feature as well. Maybe there's going to be some other benefits as well to the world, like maybe less pollution on the beaches, things cleaning up, maybe nature coming back in areas that are not being exploited. Well, I think it probably has a few weeks to do that when things come back to normal again. I bet there will be a few interesting changes to our environment for the better. This must also be a fantastic time for sociologists and anthropologists who actually have never had an opportunity like this to study society under a worldwide lockdown. Could be pretty interesting stats coming out of this. But anyway, let's get back onto the topic. And the topic I want to talk about today is how artists can find their own style. And has this come up in questions on a regular basis? New artists starting out wondering how they're going to make it in the art world. What do they need to do? Questions like, can artists come up with something new? Can I find a style that I can call my own? And if I don't, will I be taken seriously as an artist? Can I find the career that I've been looking for? I think a lot of new artists get so hung up with this issue and they're not sure if they're wasting their time. Who's going to take them seriously if their art follows or looks like someone else's? And I'm not talking about copying other artists. I'm talking about being influenced. Maybe you in a similar sort of movement, or maybe you are just influenced by some master artists that have gone before. Is this going to disqualify you? Are you going to be labeled derivative? Your art, is it going to be derivative? One of those insults dreamed up by critics, I'm sure. So, in this world where we've got to take responsibility for ourselves and develop our own careers and our art and be able to stand on our feet without being propped up by gallerists or critics or some gatekeeper, well, let's have a look. How important is that style? Now, recently, around the dinner table, chatting about the movies. Quite often the topic at our dinner table turns to movies, something we all have an opinion on and all enjoy doing in our free time. And with my children, the topic was on the latest action hero movies. Although they've dropped off a bit in the past few months or since last year, there's always some sort of action hero movie coming out at some point. The thing is that it seems that most of the movies coming out of Hollywood have all been the same for so long. Loud, improbable, just plain silly, filled with special effects. It seems like everything is done in front of a green screen. What about all the sequels? For must be at least 20 years, sequels have dominated. And maybe there's a good reason for this. Well, I suppose the obvious one is that a sequel of a good movie means a captive audience and a ready audience waiting to simply put down their money for box office tickets. So that means money. Money is going to determine whether there's going to be a sequel, obviously. And for the viewers, we know we are going to get something that's entertaining. It's a sure thing. It's always going to work out in the end. Take somebody to go to and see a movie, you know you're going to get something that's probably going to be satisfying. But there are a lot of sequels made, and how often do they turn out to be quite bad? For example, every Iron Man sequel, in my opinion, was rubbish. The first one was the best one, and that was that. And sometimes the middle one is a disappointment, and they make up for it in the third one. I'm thinking of Indiana Jones. Hated the Temple of Doom, but the Last Crusade was fun. Things like that. So what about painting? Can we stretch that idea into this question about finding an artist's style? So artists have been asking, how can they find their own style and produce something fresh? Or are we as artists only producing what has gone before? Has everything been done already, and are we just churning out paintings that are nothing more than poor sequels just because they happen to sell? Is that an excuse to just churn them out? My favorite period of art was the Impressionists. I'm unashamedly a follower of the Impressionist style of painting, although it's not bound to the absolute technique of the Impressionists in the late 1800s. Instead, it's simply getting an impression from nature. But let's have a look at the original Impressionist movement. Impressionists try to follow a formula for painting light and atmosphere, and it was extremely technical, and they were quite stuck on this whole discipline of painting in a certain way. And ultimately, I think only Claude Monet persisted with Impressionism, although it did evolve as well. His late Impressionist paintings were very much different to his early Impressionist work, and that in itself is a lesson for this topic. Most of the other Impressionist artists quickly went in different directions, and they developed their own style. This was a natural progression, and people like Cézanne, Van Gogh, Seurat, Gauguin, and then later on Bonnard and Vuillard, they were all distinct, yet there was an influence of Impressionism in one way or another. Even to reject Impressionism is still to be influenced by it in some way, because you have gone in a different direction. But all of those artists were almost given license to free up their painting and explore new things because of Impressionism. So let's go down the road to modern art. We got things like pickled sharks and unmade beds and blank canvases being hailed as daring new art. And if I can just remind those artists, Marcel Duchamp put a toilet in the gallery, and that was a sensation. Or Picasso using a rope to frame his painting. Maybe everything has been done. I'm not sure how you can really follow on those things and call yourself daring and new. So unless you're making a decision to visit the hardware store and find the next outlet for your painting, maybe I can suggest the following. Number 1, paint what moves you. This is the most important thing. Number 2 is paint often so that your natural signature develops. For example, your brushwork is going to change and develop over time, just like a signature does. Thirdly, try different mediums before settling on one medium. Try many different ones, and you'll find your favorite, the one that really resonates with the type of art you are producing. Number 4, use your medium to its fullest potential. For example, oil paint can be thick, thin, splashed, poured, thrown, brushed, handled in many ways, as many as your imagination can come up with. So experiment with the medium. Number 5, refer back to number 1. If it does not move you, then you are not communicating well. Art is a language, and you need to use it to get your message across. And finally, trust yourself and the journey you're on. Don't doubt yourself because you're not sure of your style. Produce the work that you're producing today. Then go into the next day and keep on. Keep on doing the work. If you don't show up and do the work, you can't develop into the artist you're meant to be. And any stage on the journey is as valid as any other. Don't discount the work you're doing right now because you're not 100% fixed on a particular style. It's a good thing, and I don't believe you're ever going to settle into one style in X number of years and stay there. you're going to keep developing because every step leads to another. It's kind of like evolution. Mankind is not one perfect being and is going to stay that way. Evolution will carry on, and your painting is going to develop as well. So perhaps the final word here is, don't be afraid of influences. The greatest service we can do for other artists is to learn from them. It is their gift to us, and we must create art with joy and freedom and accept the gift that previous artists have given us. Certainly be influenced, certainly be inspired, and paint from within. You'll never copy another artist if you create from an authentic self, but you certainly will be inspired and influenced, and that is the way it's meant to be. So don't feel down on yourself because you see crazy art or some freaky new thing being touted by critics and galleries as the greatest coming of art. All of that is just talk, facile, superficial talk. What counts is what you produce, and you will find that you'll end up creating work that expresses what you're trying to say and makes you happy, and that will be infectious in a good way, and you will find your audience, and you'll find the market, and you'll find the people that want to purchase your work, all as part of a natural evolution. Don't ever let some third party dictate what is art and what you should be producing. So with that, the final thought is, you don't have to worry about a style. You have to paint what you love to paint. So the whole question of style, well, don't even bother with it. Move on and do the work. So with that thought, I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Use this time to explore your painting. Just paint every day if you can, for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long you have to, but keep working, keep producing and sharing your work, and be involved. Remain humble, create your work, and keep pushing the excellence of your own work. Be your own critic, but don't let that put you off as well. Always try to improve your work, and that's all anyone can ask of you. Okay, I want to leave off there and hopefully be talking to you soon on this podcast again. I'm also producing as many videos as I can for my YouTube channel, so look that up, YouTube Malcolm Dewey. There's plenty of new demonstrations and lessons being added, and especially in this time I want to add a few long form videos as well. So look out for those on my YouTube channel. Well, we'll chat again soon. Until then, keep well and keep creating.